In this improved form, the third generation Mazda 6 offers a revitalised challenge in the market's D-segment medium-range Mondeo sector. A raft of small but significant engineering updates cement its position as the most enjoyable car in the class to drive. All the engines have been significantly updated, and there's a fresh flagship 2.5 litre petrol unit. Plus, you get more sophisticated safety and connectivity, along with a much smarter cabin than before. This model is still far from an obvious choice in this sector, but on paper, perhaps it ought to be.
For Mazda, the feeling of connectedness between car and driver, they call it Jinba Itai, is paramount in any model design, and they've applied it with renewed emphasis in developing this revised third generation Mazda 6. The sporty demeanour, which has always characterised this car, has been further enhanced here by a more rigid chassis, sharper steering, and the adoption of what the company calls G vectoring control. This is a more sophisticated breed of torque vectoring system that takes steering angle as well as throttle input into account in maximising corner traction and turn-in accuracy at speed. At the same time, the engineers have also striven to improve ride quality with changes to the damping and the anti-roll bars. Over poor surfaces, you will still find more comfort-orientated contenders in this class, but they just can't hold a candle to the way that this car goes around corners. Engine-wise, you might think the main news here is the adoption of the 2.5 litre petrol engine that we're trying today, which, like all green pump-fueled Mazdas, determinedly ignores the industry's modern-era switch to turbocharged induction, preferring normal aspiration. This top power plant puts out 194 PS, and it features clever cylinder deactivation technology, so as to deliver reasonable efficiency stats for a car of this performance, 42.2 mpg on the combined cycle, and 153 grams per kilometre of CO2. Ultimately, though, perhaps more significant are the changes made to the mainstream SKYACTIV engines that most Mazda 6 customers will ultimately choose. Now, as before, there is a choice of 2 litre petrol or 2.2 litre diesel power. Both power plants feature significant engineering improvements that deliver better refinement, performance and efficiency. For the 2 litre petrol-powered Mazda 6, there is, as before, a choice of either 145 or 165 PS outputs. Either way, without a turbo to boost low-down torque, you have to rev the car a little more than you might be used to, but the eager engine note, that's quite appealing. The 2.2 litre diesel does feature turbocharging, and as a result, it offers nearly double the amount of pulling power, although not quite the same sense of driver engagement. There's a base 150 PS variant or an uprated 184 PS model. Mazda's stylists are very good at the whole concept of expressing motion in the styling of their vehicles. They're rather less good at the buzzwords that they coined to describe their completed shapes. Now, in this case, it's Kodo, and that apparently stands for Soul of Motion. And it was originally supposed to be a theme inspired by the movement of animals in the wild. Now it's apparently been refined to suggest mature elegance. Curving chromed trimming strips now embellish the bottom edge of these smarter full LED headlights before flowing down below this restyled grille. There are more changes at the rear, or at least there are on this saloon model anyway. The alternative Tourer Estate body style has been left largely as it was, apart from the addition of a body-coloured lower bumper panel. With the saloon, though, the tail lamps have been completely restyled with a chromed boot lid finishing strip flowing right into them. Enough with that. There was never anything very much wrong with the exterior looks of this third generation Mazda 6, but with the original Mark III model, the premium promise of the curvy silhouette wasn't carried through inside. With this revised design, there's a cabin that much better befits what is, after all, Mazda's flagship model. Now, highlights include the way that this central trimming strip now stretches across the entire width of the fascia, and it can, as here, be finished in tactile stitched suede. With the earlier version of this third generation design, the infotainment monitor was a pokely shaped thing buried into the centre of the dash. This display is not only significantly bigger, but it also gains new eye-line freestanding dash top positioning, and it's grown in capability too. We particularly like the redesigned seats too. They feature height adjustment and lumbar support across the range. Otherwise, things are much as they were before. And what we really like here is the way that the cabin layout remains so driver-centric. Everything is positioned exactly where you want to find it. The gear stick is perfectly placed for your palm. The wheel is just as you'd ideally like it. So, time to take a seat in the back. The generous exterior length promises a spacious rear cabin. Once you get inside, the room on offer will be very comfortable for 2 adults. Plus, there's a surprisingly good headroom too, although folk over 6 foot tall may find this arching roofline a touch limiting. So finally, let's take a look in the boot. Now, despite the fact that this car is significantly longer than a rival Volkswagen Passat, Mazda has somehow managed to bring us a cargo area almost 100 litres smaller than that car. To be fair, the 480 litre capacity that you get with this saloon body shape is slightly more than you'll get from a rival Peugeot 508, and it's not far off what's offered by a Mondeo hatch. If you have hefty loads to carry, you can push forward the standard 60/40 split folding rear backrest, and that's a simple procedure using these levers located on each side of the boot, and that reveals up to an extra metre of load space. If the need for that kind of capacity is likely to be regular, then the Tourer Estate will of course be a better bet. That offers 522 litres of space with all the seats in place. In summary then, this isn't the most obvious choice in its class, but if you don't want to do the obvious thing, then here's a car that won't penalise you for thinking a bit more independently. Now, some rival models are cheaper, others offer more rear passenger space, a larger boot, or swoopier looks. Now, if any of those things are priorities for you, then you probably will look elsewhere in this segment. Otherwise, though, there's an awful lot to like here. The Mazda 6 is a car that can be engaging when you want it to be, and cosseting when all you really want to do is to get home as comfortably as possible. It's a combination of virtues that's delivered only through the kind of painstaking engineering that Mazda deserves to be rewarded for. Will they be? Well, that's over to you.